one of my favourite things in life is starting a new sitcom and having that first episode be really, really strong, especially when there are a decent number of seasons to get through. I have finished watching the first episode of Hot in Cleveland. I have only watched the first episode. I know sometimes when I discuss first episodes, I've also watched a few additional episodes, but my thoughts here are purely on the first episode. And there will be spoilers as I go through this and share some thoughts and talk about the events in the episode. I think for me, the biggest takeaway that I didn't realise until towards the end of the episode is that this feels like a modern day Golden Girls. And I will highlight the exact moment when I had that realisation. I'll talk a little bit more about why I feel that's the case. We also have some really great performances and fabulous characters, and I cannot wait to see what's in store with this one. The first episode is called Pilot. It's directed by Michael Lembeck, which I was pretty excited about. Michael Lembeck's directed a load of great things. And it starts off on a plane, which I thought was very interesting. Because it means one of two things. Either they're going to be on a plane frequently, which in itself could be exciting, but I don't think that would be the case. I feel like because it's called Hot in Cleveland, they will be spending a lot of time in Cleveland. Or there's a decent amount of money behind this. Because if they have money to build sets that they're not going to use frequently, that's a good sign. Of course, money doesn't guarantee quality, but certainly if a sitcom has the financial backing to develop multiple sets for the first episode, sets that they may not use again or very frequently, it is promising. Again, nothing's guaranteed, but I did think that was certainly quite interesting. And we meet the characters on the plane, and we meet Melanie, played by Valerie Bertinelli. We meet Joy, played by Jane Leeves. And we meet Victoria, played by Wendie Malick. I will be honest, and this may happen, Wendie Malick's character is called Victoria Chase. And as soon as I heard that, I winced a little bit because it's a little too close to Veronica Chase. Kirstie Alley's character in Veronica's Closet. Fabulous sitcom, absolutely recommend it. So if I ever accidentally call her Veronica, please forgive me. I know her name's Victoria, but I hear Victoria Chase. My brain says Veronica, so I hope that doesn't happen. I don't like the character name because it's a little too close to Veronica Chase, but other than that, obviously I have no real issues. And they're actually going to Paris for a girls' trip. There's a bit of turbulence, and then Melanie's husband is also on the plane. She's going through a separation, and it turns out that her husband is on the plane with his fiancée. Clearly, he moves quite quickly. There's some more turbulence, very convincingly filmed, very dramatic, maybe a little over the top, but it's really good fun to watch. And then they land in Cleveland, which is obviously not Paris. This was not their intended destination. So with nothing else to do, they go to a bar, and I thought this was a really interesting line, and they're looking at us. In LA, they look past us. Clearly showing that they are hot stuff in Cleveland, and they like this attention because they're used to just blending in with everybody else. Whereas in Cleveland, well, as the title suggests, they're hot in Cleveland, and they go to sit with some guys, and it's a really nice bar. It reminds me of something, and I can't work out which bar it is, but there is a sitcom that has a similar setup where you have the bar on one side, the seats in the middle, and to the other side, the entrance near the back of the set. The setup is very similar, and I'm thinking, maybe How I Met Your Mother? I don't know. But there is a sitcom bar that has a very similar setup, and if you know what I'm talking about, please let me know. We then learn more about the characters here. We learn that Melanie is a writer. We already know that Victoria is an actress. That was established on the plane. And Joy is the, quote, eyebrow queen of Beverly Hills. She's an eyebrow technician, is that the right term? They then go to a hotel because obviously they're stranded in Cleveland. And here we have, again, another set. It's not the most elaborate set. It's basically a bed and a door. But again, it's another set that I'm assuming they're not going to use frequently. Maybe they can repurpose it. But again, this is suggesting to me that there was a bit of money behind it. Again, money doesn't equal quality automatically, but is very promising. Jane Leeves licks her arm. Melanie then comes in and declares she's moving to Cleveland. And then Jane Leeves licks her arm a few more times. They then go to this house that Melanie has decided to lease. And I'm going to assume that this is the house where they stay for the duration of the show, but I will find that out in due course. And then there we meet the house's caretaker, Elka Ostrovsky. and she has a fabulously strong personality. And of course, this is the wonderful Betty White. And it's because of Betty White that I wanted to watch this. I've seen a few bits and pieces here and there of her performance. I've seen clips on YouTube and things, but I certainly didn't know much about her character, and immediately I liked her character for two reasons. One, she is a very strong, well-written character, based purely on this first episode, of course. But two, her character is quite unlike most roles I've seen Betty White do. Usually, I probably largely because of some of her earlier roles, she often plays quite sweet characters. Not always, but for the most part. Whereas Elka is a little bit more headstrong. Joy says to her, "So what are you, like 100?" And quite rightly, Elka responds, "I don't like you." She has a very abrasive, brutally honest, and very funny approach to things. The house itself looks like it's really a good space. I'm not loving the green walls and the green doors. I kind of hope they change it, but if they don't, it won't be the biggest issue. But that's kind of the only thing that stood out to me as being not the most satisfying. Melanie then goes out on a date already, so Joy and Victoria search for her date online, Hank the plumber, and they find a picture of him with his wife. And Elka just crosses the room and says, "Well, who didn't see that coming?" And it was just beautifully, beautifully executed. Melanie is then on a boat with Hank, on Hank's boat. Again, we have another set that I assume they're not going to use that frequently. And actually, he was just about to tell her that he is married as the others come bursting in. And Hank says all of the right things. I think I believed him. I think I trusted his word. Not entirely sure. And then Victoria gets a phone call from her agent, and she is up for the part for playing Megan Fox's grandmother. And this is the part where I started to wonder if this was intended to be a modern day Golden Girls. We'd had a few age-based jokes up until this point, but by this point I was thinking, yeah, I think this is actually what they're going with. And I was really interested in seeing more of that. And we do get some more age-based conversations, and I do think that if this is the case, I think it could be pretty fantastic for a few reasons. And it would be really interesting to see the kind of age-based stories compared with those they addressed on the Golden Girls. I think some would work exactly the same. I think with some, attitudes are a bit different now. And it could be quite exciting. They end up saying that they're going to spend 2 weeks in Cleveland instead of 2 weeks in Paris. And Melanie suggests then that they go to the bar where the men think they're hot, and Elka says she'll drive, and off they go. And it's really exciting. I think there's a lot of potential. I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be difficult to not directly compare some elements to the Golden Girls, at least to begin with, while I'm in that mindset. The characters are not necessarily carbon copies of the Golden Girls. I do think that Betty White's character is the Sophia. I think that that's quite plain to see. She is the Sophia character. I'd say so far Melanie is the Blanche. But in terms of Dorothy and Rose, I'm not really seeing that in either Joy or Victoria at this point, which is not a criticism, of course, just an observation that they haven't carbon copied the personalities of the Golden Girls. Had they done, I would have been fine with it, because enough time has passed that it would be a more contemporary take, so it would still work. But yeah, I'm looking forward to finding out what they do with this. And as an introduction, I think the pilot is brilliant. We get a really good sense of the characters, their personalities. I think the variety in the sets is very promising, and the actual personalities of the characters, Elka in particular, I think is fabulous. I don't have a favourite character yet. That might happen, it might not. Obviously, I'm drawn to Betty White, but out of Melanie, Joy, and Victoria, I don't know. I really don't know. I think they're all pretty great so far. Looking forward to finding out what the rest of the show has in store. I think the pilot is a really strong introduction to Hot in Cleveland.